Hello, I'm Jonathan Halting-Cohen, and we're here at Jerry's Music Shop, and I'd like to speak with you just a little bit about articulation on the saxophone. Very simple, basic level. There are three main components of articulation that I would like you to be mindful of when you go through it. One is the form, and the other is the speed, and the third is the stamina. All three of these you should address every day, regardless of what kind of articulation you are going for or what you had for breakfast. These three things need to be addressed daily. In terms of form, we're looking for maximum efficiency, meaning the tongue doesn't move very much. In fact, it should move as little as possible while still staying relaxed. So it's this balance between relaxation and minimal motion. It would be very easy to clamp down on the tongue and try to get it to move not very much, but that is contrary to the principle of speed. And so in order to achieve speed, we want to make sure that it is relaxed. Beyond the amount of motion of the tongue, you want to make sure that the tongue itself is convex. So the tongue is slightly round. You want to make sure that there's no cupping like this going on, that it's more of this shape. And the tongue should strike the tip of the reed just back from the tip of the tongue. People's tongues are of different lengths. Some people will come almost right up to the tip of the tongue, some a little bit further back, but you don't want it too far back or underneath the tongue at all. So just pretty much at the tip of the tongue to the tip of the reed. A little bit back from the tip of the tongue to the tip of the reed. If you don't have a mirror, it's good to maybe play a C and put your other hand here, your right hand here, and notice and see if you can feel any motion. One option is to also take out a cell phone and look in the cell phone at yourself and make sure that it's not moving too much. If it's moving too much, you'll see this. You see how much is moving here? And when I stopped playing, you heard me make this sort of guttural sound because my throat was tight while that was happening. Instead, we'll start with a very steady airstream and then learn to interrupt it just a little bit with the tongue moving just the smallest amount. Now, first we'll start with the air. You pull the air in, then the tongue goes on the reed, then the air starts going forward, the tongue comes off the reed, and the air goes through the mouthpiece. Okay? One exercise you can try is to do this several times in a row. And we'll go first for a very consistent sound and then start using the tongue. And we'll play, let's say, eighth notes. Okay, again. Now, you might notice that your tongue still moves a lot. If that's the case, you might try this other articulation exercise, which is actually to play a very short succession of notes. That, in order to play it that fast, your tongue cannot physically move that much. So we'll play it this way. So again. You can try three. So that's another way to get it together. Now, articulating on different parts of the instrument is different. So find one that you feel comfortable the way it sounds, and then start moving from there and see how similarly you can play the next note to the first note. So, or so different articulations, different patterns that you can make up that will address these few issues. In addition to these simple exercises, you can start adding them into your scales. So to play articulations with scales, you can play them 1 or 2 per note, or you can skip some and articulate others. So we'll start with 2 per note. Or 1. Or the idea, regardless of which exercise you're doing, is to keep the air as consistent and full as possible while just using the tongue in the minimal amount needed to make the change that you are desiring. One of the issues that a lot of players run into is the articulation sometimes comes out more of a slap. And this can actually be a nice articulation to try to do on purpose, but to differentiate between the two and do the one that you want on command is important. The slap tongue is created by a concave tongue against the reed. So that space there creates a suction between the tongue and the reed, pulls the reed away from the mouthpiece until the tension of the reed against the mouthpiece is greater than the suction, at which point the reed slaps back against the mouthpiece and we get a sort of slap tongue effect. And that's a nice sound too, and it can be used really nicely. However, in a lot of times you want to make sure that your tongue is actually convex so that you don't get that slap sound. Double tonguing is another technique that's very important, and the way that works is you add a second syllable. The first syllable might be a do or a goo, or a do or a tu that you use with the tongue against the reed. The other one is more of a coo or a goo, depending on the articulation that you're going for, and that happens more in the back of the throat. Again, you want to minimize motion, so you don't want to see a ton of motion back here. And you want to pair them as evenly as possible. So the coo or goo should sound as close to the tu or do as possible. So again, on C. So the first 4 are tu, the last 4 are coo. And you can start doing twos and twos. Until you just speed it up and up and up and up and up. And again, keeping the principle of maximum efficiency and minimizing motion. This can get quite fast as well.